Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 477, our top sci-fi games.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Logan Howard.
I'm Andy Holliday.
And I'm Douglas Stewart.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Are you a bobblehead today, Andy Poops?
Yeah, I'm just excited that you're doing the sponsorship.
GameToppersLLC.com is the place to go and find the most amazing upgrades to your game night.
Do you need ice?
Oh. Upgrade your game night with a new game topper, with a new fancy pantsy mat, or with new...
Wow, I wish you could see this.
With any of the amazing accessories that come with the game toppers.
I was just going to say, who's the bobblehead now?
I know, right? You have these amazing cup holders that will store your drink below the table level, but at a perfect spot for your arm to reach, but so that the game is not really at risk of spillage. You've got awesome dice towers and bit holders, and you've got leaves. One of my favorite new additions at GameToppersLLC.com are the dining leaves.
Covers.
Dining covers.
Dining leaf covers.
Dining leaf covers. Just the dining covers.
No, they're the dining leaf covers.
But you can leave a game set up underneath, put the dining leaf covers on top, and use the surface for another game. Or for food, or whatever.
You know, I'm actually thinking I need a second set of the dining leaf covers.
I need a set, but they are not available for the Minecraft yet. So I know Berkey's working on those, and I'm really excited for those to come out.
Yeah, it's going to need some sort of support in the middle of there, I feel, but
yeah,
for the Watson size, as we continue to find these campaign games, we got Gloomhaven under the leaves over there, and then to have something else over here.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to have. I was thinking that very thing last week, actually.
So what you need to get are some Holmes mats so that they're a little bit more narrow, and they should go perfectly over top of your game topper with the dining covers.
Yeah, because I have a Mycroft mat on the other table, and it overhangs a little bit, so the Holmes might be just right.
Maybe, or just try one of your Watsons. Maybe that would work great too. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Now, the last thing I want to point out about these incredible game toppers is we talk quite a bit about the Watson and the Mycroft and how big they are and everything. That might be too big for your game space. If it is, you're in luck because they have a lot of other sizes as well. So go check them out, GameToppersLLC.com.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I am Andy Holliday.
I'm Nathan Howard.
And I am Dave Holliday.
We are minus Doug and Logan, unfortunately, tonight. Hopefully we'll have both of them next week. If not, hopefully we have at least one of them next week.
I'm pretty sure Logan will still be working nights. I think that guy looks for nights now. I don't know. He actually gets really excited when he gets to come record with us. Even more excited when he gets to come attend game night with us.
That's true.
Thank you for...
So after you are finished with checking out GameToppersLLC.com, totally need to go over to MeepleNation.com. We have all sorts of great content for you on our website. We have links to all of our episodes. We have bios if you are interested in how Nathan got into gaming, or Dave, or any of us, including our bloggers. We have bios on each of us. We also have blogs, and we have photos of some of our favorite gaming experiences that we've had over the years. Also, if you enjoy what we do, we have a link to our Patreon page. We would love it if you became one of our new patrons, and we appreciate any help that our patrons send to us. And if you have any questions or comments or just want to say hello, send us an email at meeplenation@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys. We love any feedback that you have for us.
Yeah, we love to hear about new games or games that should be on our radar. And always jump on our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. That's going to be the easiest way to get a hold of us. And that's where most of our information and discussions start, is on Meeple Nation Off Air. This week, we are talking about our top sci-fi games in space.
Now, just to make sure you understand, we are not in space while recording this episode. We're just talking about the games that take place in space.
Thanks for that clarification, Dave.
Good thing you pointed that out.
All right, I will start us off with my number 5 space-based sci-fi game, which is not space-based, by the way. It is actually Stars of Ikarios. So we got to play this for the first time at Icon. I think, Nathan, you're the one, I think it was either you or Doug that said it was like Gloomhaven in space.
Doug had finally pulled it off of his shelf of shame and quickly realized that it was like Gloomhaven. I had seen it on his shelf and I was eyeing it for a long time, and I was very excited when he finally pulled it off, and even more excited when I found out what it was like. Downright giddy after we started playing it.
Yeah, this is such a great game. The dogfight battles are super fun and tactical, which I love. And the fact that you still get to do planetary exploration and stuff like that. And there's a storyline you're going along. There's a storyline that you're following along with. Character development, spaceship upgrades. What is there not to like about this game? It's great.
Yeah, everything is going off. Bing, 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 bing. Winner, winner, winner.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you mentioned those dogfight battles in space, and they are cool, right? Like each of us, it's a team game, right? Cooperative game.
Is it a team game? Because it kind of felt like that first dogfight wasn't a team game. It kind of felt like it was, hey, everybody come over here and leave Andy by himself. Nathan.
That was fun watching you.
But each of us pilot our own spaceship. Our ships are all different, right? Like they have different strengths and weaknesses, and it's just really, really cool.
Yeah, they did a really great job with the different maneuvers you can do and different cannons and guns that you can equip on your ship. Like everybody has the standard guns, but then everybody's also going to have something unique, and it's going to be based on your ship. There's a ship that matches up with your pilot. Just the way it's implemented is really, really well done, and you have slots for different upgrades that you don't start with in the game that will unlock as you start progressing in the story. What it seemed like for us anyway, when we got to maybe the third session, all of a sudden we got substantially better, to where the dogfights, that particular dogfight was like, wow, we got a lot more powerful with this last level up, right?
So we played through the prologue, which was kind of similar to that Jaws of the Lion feel, where it kind of trickled in some of those rules as you go to kind of give you a basis and then build on that. And you're absolutely right. By the time we were through with that prologue, we were playing a much different battle in space than we were with that first one. It got better. Every time it got better. And I love this game. And that's what we're talking about putting under the leaves on this second table, is we could set up Stars of Ikarios at this table. Gloomhaven or maybe Frosthaven will end up on the other table over there. Stars of Ikarios was a great game.
I have a feeling if Doug were with us today, Stars of Ikarios would be on his top 5, probably maybe even his top 1. I know he is in love with this game right now, and I'm so glad that he is, because he taught it to us. Nathan, tell us about your number 5.
So my number 5 used to be my all-time number 1 game. Other games have come out. That game has dropped down in its dominance as my all-time number 1 game, and that is Firefly, the board game. Still a very good game. Very much a pick-up and delivery game, trying to build a crew, get a job, stay alive. Steeped in that Firefly theme And in fact, there's a re-release 10-year anniversary of this game that is on Game Found when we're recording. I'm not quite sure what its status is, out or coming out. Firefly has always been a gem in my sci-fi fantasy realm, and the Firefly at the board game marries that theme so well and puts you right into that universe. Selecting your crew, finding those jobs that are going to be beneficial for the crew that you have and the ship that you have, maximizing those advantages you have or supplementing those disadvantages that you have. Firefly the board game is an exceptional game.
It is great. I think I've only played it twice, but I loved it. The TV show is one of my favorite TV shows. It's one of the few TV shows that I have rewatched, and I would watch it again.
So I enjoy Firefly as well. The last play, I kind of felt like Dave, that I barely got everything ready to go, and then Logan and Nathan decided that the game was over. And
Sometimes some of those missions are like that.
It ended so quickly. Like all of a sudden it was like, the game's over. It's like, holy cow, how did the game end? It's over? Really?
My list in general, surprise, was difficult for me to make.
Even with the month in advance notice, that it still had some issues for Dave.
Oh yeah. Month's nowhere near enough time for me to make a decision about favorites.
Especially when you only started it 4 days ago. Maybe not even then. But you knew a month in advance.
So part of my list was really I can't remember the words what I was going to say.
Challenging.
No, I guess
time.
it's I kind of put it together a little bit based on some of the stuff that all of y'all had going on. So anyway, number 5 for me though was also Stars of Ikarios.
Yeah, that was such a great experience. We spent the whole day at Icon playing Stars of Ikarios. And then the day prior, because we were there for the 2 days, the whole day we played Oathsworn the day before. And that was good times.
It was a perfect convention. Get campaign games, bust through a bunch of scenarios in campaign games. Totally the way to spend a convention, in my opinion. It was great. All right, my number 4 is a game that Nathan recently introduced to me. Instantly fell in love with it. In fact, we talked about how giddy Nathan was when I was explaining the rules to Tiny Turbo Cars, and I felt very similar to that as he was explaining Galaxy Truckers. And it is a very chaotic game as you're trying to build your ship. Hundreds of tiles, it seems like, on the table, and you have to pick through these tiles and build your ship, and you're trying to race everybody because time can run out. You're trying to get it built efficiently enough to where you can survive, and not only survive, but try to win the race because it's a racing game. Once again, not a huge fan of a lot of racing games because I think they're kind of boring, but this one's definitely not boring. It is so much fun. Your ship's getting torn apart by asteroids and by lasers, and you're getting attacked. If you didn't build your ship right, all of a sudden pieces start flying off. There's a lot of excitement in the building aspect of the ship, and there's a lot of excitement when the racing happens and cards start getting flipped, and you're like, oh, no, not there, right? And there goes half of my ship. I screwed up and didn't build one spot right, and that's, of course, where that asteroid hits. What a fun game. Instantly loved it. As soon as with our first, I've only played it once, and it already hit my top 5 as far as sci-fi games.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, and it's one of the best rule books that I've ever read. The rule book is full of spoof and full of humor. I love how the game stresses how important the pieces are. And so when I was explaining the rules, because we were playing with Richie and his wife, Carrie, and everything that I explained is so you need lasers. Lasers are going to shoot in front of you. So lasers are very important. So you want as many lasers as you can get. And boosters. Boosters are important because boosters are going to help your speed. So you want as many boosters as you can get. And batteries. Batteries are important because they're going to power your larger boosters and your larger batteries. So you want, or your larger lasers. So you want as many batteries as you can get. You want as many cabins as you can get. So it has as many astronauts as you can hold. You want as many cargo bays so you can store that. And everything is, and everybody kind of, after third time I was explaining it that this is very important. You want as many of these as you can get. And so it's and that's how the rules stress it out too, is you want as many of these as you can get. And it's true. Because as you're going through, you want as many lasers, boosters, cargo space.
Well, and the funny thing is, so you have filler, right? Filler pieces that will kind of help you connect everything, but they don't really do anything for you. So yeah, absolutely. You want to put as few of those in there as possible, but you always have to have some just to get everything to fit properly, because the connections are different on the tiles and your connections have to match up. And if they don't, by the end of the build phase, those get wiped away because you didn't make the proper connections, or they're not connected at all, right? So your ship may already end up as a half a ship before you even start the race, because if you hurry up when you're building and you're not paying attention, that can end up hurting you big time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the stressful part, right? Is after you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you start to evaluate your ship, and then you're like, oh no, there's a connection that's not broken. And oh no, that's connected to 6 tiles. That's the only connection to 6 different tiles.
Yeah.
And they're all gone now.
What a fun game. Chaotic, crazy, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love Galaxy Trucker. Such a great game.
Do you love it enough for it to be your number 4, Nathan?
No, it's not my number 4.
So what is?
My number 4 is a Star Wars game.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, this is a 2-player Star Wars game. This is Star Wars Rebellion. 1 player is the Rebellion, 1 player is the Empire. The Rebels are trying to survive long enough to avoid the Imperials finding their base and destroying their base. And obviously the Imperials are trying to hunt down and to discover the Rebel base and destroy the Rebel base before the Rebels are able to hide again. Very strategic game, a lot of theme in there with the space battles and the ground battles. The board is broken up into planet locations, and you're going to put ground troops on the planet, space troops in orbit around the planet. Whenever you have opposing pieces in a system, then you're going to resolve that battle. I very much enjoy this game. It has a couple of implementations that allow you to use different battle cards or use more of a random luck element to it, but very much love the theme of this game. It's a little bit longer game, which I'm not a super keen on, and it's a 2-player game. It does go up to 4 players and you can play teams, but it is not a 4-player game.
If you want to hold the controller with no batteries.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is. Star Wars Rebellion, phenomenal game for 2 players who have several hours to battle it out.
Dave, what's your number 4?
I am going with Beyond the Sun for number 4. Beyond the Sun is a game we played for the first time a couple of years ago in person. We just played it a couple of times in person, but then we've played it a lot online. It's a game that I've just really enjoyed every play. Several unique things in it. You know, it has some worker placement. It has an awesome tech tree. But then you also have the little board to the side that's got the galaxy where you're going to different planets and there's some area control there. And it blends everything together really, really well. The only downside to this game for me is I want more content, right? Like I'd like to see more tech, more, like just an expansion to come out and just add a little more. Because once you've played it a bunch, it can seem kind of repetitive.
I can see that. I also agree this is a great game. What I think it needs is decent artwork. I think it's very vanilla
Totally.
as far as the look of it, which is unfortunate because the game is amazing. It's a great game.
Well, I'm here to grant some wishes. Not yours, Andy's. You're out of luck. Sorry. Dave, there's an expansion. It is called Beyond the Sun, Leaders of the New Dawn. And it is in my pre-order.
Ooh.
That will be available shortly. And I am very much looking forward to that because this is a great game that is in need of an expansion. Kind of like Colony was a great game that you have, Andy, and I know I had, and I ended up culling it because it needed more content. Beyond the Sun has kind of hit the the dust on the shelf since we kind of hit that roadblock where we're feeling like it needs more content. So I'm very excited to be able to add new content to this, but I'm pretty sure it's going to have the same style of artwork, which I do agree. It is kind of blasé, but it kind of gives it a Euro feel, right?
All right, we're like 20 minutes in and just through our first 2 games each. So
My number 3, I have talked about several times on the podcast, and that is the Star Wars miniatures game. This is a miniatures game that came out in the early 2000s. I spent way too much money on, way too much money. And I got my brothers into it, and they spent way too much money on it. But we have spent hours playing Star Wars miniatures. First got married, my brothers would come over every Sunday and we would play games. This is one of those that we would play, and we'd try to keep the points, because you build armies based on points, and we try to keep it fairly small so that we weren't up too late. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun playing this. I actually got to introduce this to my youngest son, Caden, and ever since he has been begging to play this again. In fact, I was the Sith and he was the Empire when we played, and he got completely trounced. It was his first game. The Sith is my best army, so naturally he got trounced. But he went and decided he wanted to do a separatist army, so he has all these big droids and everything else that he's already got his army picked out. So I just need to build an army and play with him. But I've got custom made boards that I've made for this, terrain that I've made for this game. I was way into it. I don't play it enough, honestly, because it still is a game that I really, really have fun with and really enjoy. Probably falling down my list. It's number 3. It probably, as far as space sci-fi, it was probably my number 1 for quite some time. Still a great game.
I have a ton of the miniatures when it first came out. And I mean, you have some really cool stuff. You have that AT-AT walker. I had backed out of that before any of that came out. Very much enjoyed this game. And I use several of these miniatures for the miniatures I've lost in Imperial Assault.
Nice.
So my number 3 is Galaxy Trucker. It's still an awesome game.
It is.
So you loved it more than enough to put it at number 4. So much.
It was up a little bit more on mine than the Andy's.
It even beat out a Star Wars game, which is saying something for Nathan.
It did.
Right.
It did. It did.
For me, at number 3, I put Clank in Space.
I love Clank in Space. For the longest time, it was the best Clank game out there. Clank Catacombs has edged that out, but Clank in Space is still an amazing game.
It really is.
Yeah, Clank in Space is what made me actually like Clank. I mean, we played the base game Clank, and it was fun, but it wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't firing on all cylinders for me. Clank in Space took that definitely to the next level. I still didn't love it enough to buy it because other people had it. It wasn't one like, I have to have this in my collection until Catacombs came out, and then that's on my shelf now.
Yeah, Catacombs is a great game, but Clank in Space, I love the sci-fi nostalgia that's in all the cards and the flavor text, and it's fun to just go and, oh, okay, I know where this is from, and to be able to identify all the little Easter eggs that are in there.
But it's a great deck builder. I mean, all the Clanks I've loved, just we talk about loving deck builders, and Clank does a fantastic job with deck building.
Yeah, they've done well with that. All right, we are down to number 2. My number 2 is Xia Legends of a Drift system. This is one we've never played a full version of. We've only played up to 5 points every time because it's usually a time constraint.
And we're usually teaching new people.
That's true. This is one I really want to play the full game of.
I would love that as well.
It is such a cool game. And it's, once again, you have your spaceships. You can upgrade your spaceships. You can customize your ships to whatever you want on there. I love that aspect of it. Each of them are going to have, once again, the hot spots for me, right? Asymmetrical powers. Each ship is going to have some sort of asymmetrical power in the game. You're trying to complete missions. You can go outlaw and do more outlaw missions, or you can be just a regular merchant and be kind of the pick up, drop off style missions that you're doing. but there's a lot of exploration that you're doing throughout the game, trying to explore tiles. You have the risk of falling into stars if you decide to explore a little more carelessly or recklessly, or you can be a little more conservative and take your time. And it's just kind of there's a lot going on in the game. A lot of obstacles you're trying to get around as you're flying through space, and different planets that you get to visit and interact with. There's a lot to it, and it's one that I really, really would like to get the full experience with.
Absolutely. It kind of scratches that same itch that the Firefly, the board game, does, where you're expanding, you're trying to find work. But I love the openness of it because it's a air quote sandbox kind of game. The board goes however you make it go, kind of like Clank Catacombs. Like you, I very much want to explore this game completely, and why we all have the rules somewhat fresh on our mind.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, my number 2, guess what? It's a Star Wars game. It's actually fairly new to my collection, and I love it. And it is the only other game that we played at Icon. At the end of the night, we played several games of Star Wars, the deck building game. This game is phenomenal. It's a great deck building game, thus why it is in the title. I love how the shared market row is there. There's going to be Imperial cards in there. There's going to be Rebel cards in there. There's neutral cards. But if you're the Imperial player, you can attack the Rebel cards that are in the market row, eliminate those options to buy from your opponent. And same thing with the Rebels, and they can sabotage cards that are in that market row as well, that Galaxy row. But the neutral cards that anybody can buy, so a lot of those bounty hunters, Bosk, IG-88, very much excited for an expansion for this game as well to provide some more content in there, because I think it's ready for it. I've played it well over 15 times, and it's a game that I can just whisper Star Wars to Ashley, my oldest daughter, and she's like, yeah, let's play.
You know, the cool thing about it is that because it's Star Wars, the universe is so broad. There's so much content out there. Very easy to add content to a game like that. I mean, as far as the thematic part of it, right? You still have to get the game mechanics to work properly. But as far as thematically, my goodness, there's like limitless content.
Almost, it feels like, yeah.
I can totally see that there would be something that you would need to add. And here's the what might be kind of cool. I doubt they'll do this, but it would be kind of cool to add a third player and a third faction in the game. You'd have to broaden the market a little bit, but I think that would be kind of neat. One thing I really liked about Star Wars: The Deck Builder are the planets where you have your base. Each one acts differently. It's going to have some sort of benefit or penalty to the opposite player when they try to attack it, or a benefit to you as you're taking your turn. You get to decide where your base is going to be. So at the beginning of the game, you have your starting base, but once that gets taken over or destroyed, then you get to choose what comes in next. I like that strategic side of it where, okay, I'm going to try to go for this, or I'm going to try this strategy this time. So this is my base that I'm going to place out here. Or I'm going to try to place the base that's harder to take over, harder to destroy. So I'm going to put that out there. It gives me more time to try to get my engine working. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I've only played as the Rebels. It would be interesting to try the Empire. I've lost the 2 times I've played. The first game we played, Nathan, was really close. The second one I got blasted. It was not even a competition, but
it's kind of funny how the cards come out. It feels one-sided as you focus on either taking cards out of the Galaxy row, or you focus on acquiring capital ships when they're available to protect your base. That's where I find that the game becomes very defensive in the amount of capital ships that you can acquire, continually get out and play.
I enjoyed this game as well. I played it against Doug just the one time. I was the Rebel faction, and Doug, I felt like he was beating me. Actually, he was beating me quite a bit. Somehow the game ended and I was victor. It's one I definitely am excited to play some more.
What was your vector, Victor?
Ooh.
So Dave, what was your number 2?
Number 2 for me is a little bit strange. So it's a game that I approached with trepidation. It has a player count of 4 to 9 people. I mean, anytime you get up into those high numbers, I'm thinking, oh, this is a party game. Something like that, right? Which is definitely not my favorite. And then when it was explained to me they were also talking about some trading and negotiation and stuff like that, which is also not my favorite. So I was really quite a bit nervous about it. Now, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to play this yet. It was the ladies from Hug that were so excited to introduce this to us, but it's called Sidereal Confluence. Have you guys?
Yeah, I got to play it at Julie's house. We played it there once.
I have not yet played it.
Yeah, that's the same place. Maybe we played it. Maybe we were in the same game.
I think
don't
we were
remember.
in the same game.
Again, when there's so many people, it's kind of hard to remember who else there. But it is kind of a hectic game, right? There's a bunch of trading that's going on all at the same time. Each person controls a different alien race that has very unique powers. So I think that you would like that part of it, Andy. And there's also a really cool tech tree as well. So there are things that I love and things that I don't love. And so I was really worried about how they would marry and play, but it was really enjoyable. And I look forward to this one again.
Yes. You and I played this game together. We had the same score.
Good job. Good game, Nate.
All right. We are down to our number one picks.
Are we down to it or up to it?
We're down to it.
All right.
Number
Down,
one
up,
picks
Get down.
for space-based sci-fi games. My number one is Twilight Inscription.
I knew that.
Did you?
Not just because it was on the list, but yeah. When this came out, I knew that was your number one.
Yeah, same for me. I was going to put it at my number 5, and I was like, I know it's going to be Andy's number 1, and I don't want to steal his thunder, so...
Last week we talked about how Twilight Imperium was my favorite game for a very long time. I love the universe of Twilight Imperium. It's really cool. The different alien races are really, really intriguing to me and very cool. So when Twilight Inscription came out, I've gotten to where I really love roll and writes and flip and writes. So when it's an epic roll and write game based in the Twilight Imperium universe, I was all in. You pull those 4 boards out and it looks a little daunting, to be honest.
More than a little bit.
And there is a lot going on in the game. It's not super complicated, and I have thoroughly enjoyed playing it. And one of my favorite things about it is also my daughter Sierra's favorite game. She got to play it when we hosted it at SaltCon Spring, and I believe we had 6 players at the table, and she mopped the floor with everybody. And ever since then, she's like, yeah, that's my favorite game. I love Twilight Inscription. And the fact that she was able to wrap her head around it so quickly, I love that.
Do you think it had anything to do with her current profession?
Maybe it might have, Dave.
Okay.
Because she's a custodian at the high school.
Just curious.
It could be. She's handy with a mop. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not following this at all.
Andy said that she mopped the floor with them, and she's a custodian.
Okay. It's not funny when you have to explain. Now you're just laughing at me.
Yep. Played this for the first time at BGG. Wanted to read the rules as soon as I saw it. I'm like, I'm going to read the rules for this because this is a game that I am very interested in playing. And I was pleasantly surprised with how simple the game is, despite how it looks. I mean, you get to focus on one board at a time. So you got to be mindful of everything else that's going on your other boards. But on your turn, you're focusing on that one board. And that's what you're spinning the dice on. So it's not overly complex on each turn. Overall, yes, everything's going to interact and score you points. For a roll and write to be that epic, because every other roll and write I've played has been very simple and quick. You're talking, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, tops 45 minutes. I mean, this isn't a long game per se. You're looking at maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. My goodness, what an enjoyable experience it is.
We have our Hug Meeple Con coming up in a couple of weeks. Sidereal Confluence is one that has been requested to play, but I very much think that we need to introduce the Hug Ladies to Twilight Inscription.
I was thinking the same.
Both of those games, Sidereal Confluence, playing that again, I would very much like that. Twilight Inscription would be very fun as well.
Nathan, number 1.
Is it a Star Wars game?
Oddly enough, no. Yeah, no, it's totally a Star Wars game. And it's totally my all-time number 1 game. Those who are aware, they're already aware. But that is Star Wars Imperial Assault. I love this game. I love all the expansions. I'm very sad that Fantasy Flight dropped this game and stopped supporting it because I loved it. The content was superb. I ate this game up left and right. It is my number one game just because of the ability to play it again and again and to experience. It has an app on it so that you can actually play it fully cooperative, have the app do it, or if you want to have a lot of fun, you can play against one person. I wish Doug was here because Doug has almost as much desire to play this game as I do. It's nice to have somebody who's like, well, I want to play the bad guys. Like, no, I'm going to play the bad guys. No, I'm going to play the bad guys. So it's good to have two people that are very much involved in the game and invested in the game that they could play the one versus many. I'm looking forward to that experience, and I'm looking forward to playing as one of the Rebel players as opposed to being the Empire. Star Wars Imperial Assault, so fun. The mechanics, I think, are great. The game, I think, is fleshed out. I just desperately wish that they had more content. And so they transitioned to Star Wars Legion, which is also a great game because they were focusing on the Imperial Assault. Imperial Assault has the campaign the campaign side of it, and it also has a skirmish side of it, which is kind of what was what they were targeting, I think. And I think the other stuff was just kind of fluff to them. The fluff to them was the star to me. Star Wars Legion, I enjoy. I very much enjoy. So I have a ton of that stuff, but it's a 2-player game. It's tough to get a 2-player game because that means, I have to have an additional game night. My regular game nights, I'd rather spend with more people. So Star Wars Imperial Assault campaign, A+, number one, good stuff.
Star Wars Imperial Assault is a great game. It's the twin to my all-time favorite game of Descent 2nd Edition. Great for all the same reasons why I love Descent. The gameplay is great. You have the storyline. You have the tactics that are involved, leveling up your characters, all that, the character development, the customization, the fact that it's Star Wars, Nathan.
Even better.
Even better, right?
Number one for me is probably not a surprise to many people. Glad Logan isn't here because then I would have 3 people giving me boos instead of just the 2 of you.
I'm not going to give you a boo, but okay. I'm not going to cheer for you either.
Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars is one of the best engine building games that there is, in my opinion. And it is also not a race for the galaxy, and it doesn't usually get treated like it's a race for the galaxy. So those 2 things together make it awesome for me.
Yeah, you need to show up on a Thursday night because Terraforming Mars is Greg's favorite game as well.
Oh.
So you, Greg, and Ashley could all play that together, and the rest of us will have fun.
But do you want people in your house until 5 a.m?
If Ashley's playing, I guess she can let them out.
Because
I'm not staying up for it.
That's how long it would take. Because that's one of the parts I dislike about it is the fact that it should be more of a race for the galaxy than it is.
Absolutely.
Wow, you guys.
Sorry, Dave. We're dogging on your number one, but
it's not, it's okay. It's okay.
I do enjoy Terraforming Mars. And Andy has a very valid point when people monopolize on those blue cards and just spend turn after turn after turn. And Andy's big downside is that after he had passed in around to go to another table, play a game, play a short game, and come back, and it was still not his turn. That's pretty bad.
Totally get that as well. I guess in defense of that is everybody has the same opportunities to get all that stuff. Now, Andy doesn't know the game as well as other people, and that is a factor as well, right?
Yeah, it's a huge disadvantage.
Well, there's that, but then the fact that the blue cards are in makes the game last that much longer because our one round can go on and on and on and on. Now, I am a huge fan of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition because it doesn't have any of that, and I think it's a wonderful game. It's a great game.
I think the funny thing is I've played Ares Expedition and I've seen it go nearly as long as the other game.
Right, but you don't pass, and that's the big
right.
difference.
Yeah. Who are you playing with so I can make sure I do not play with them?
Most of the same people that you're
Okay, good.
Terraforming Mars, for me, it's one of my just favorite games in general, but when we're talking about this genre, it is the cream of the crop.
It is a great game, but not one that's very high on my list. All right, so that is our top 5. We'll just have to imagine what Doug's were, and I'm sure Nemesis was on Logan's. We didn't even mention Nemesis last week to give Logan his pound of flesh. I don't know. No.
That's true. Nemesis, my last play of Nemesis was the shortest game of Nemesis I've ever seen in my life. I think it took 20 minutes before we got killed.
That was so funny to finish a game of Dice Forge before you finished, or our game of Dice Forge lasted longer than your game of Nemesis. That was hilarious.
It was brutal. I could not believe. I was like, out of the gates, I'm like, really? Logan, we're not going to win this. This is like the aliens were ridiculously tough. I'm like, oh, how are we supposed to defeat these guys coming out of the gates? They were like ridiculously tough. We lost, and we lost hard.
And so I'm sure Doug, Imperial Assault was on his list. Stars of Icarios, I'm sure would have been on his list. I have a hard time figuring out what, I actually think Terraforming Mars probably would have been on his list as well. In his top 5, maybe.
Ares Expedition, maybe. I don't know about the
maybe.
Twilight Inscription. I know he really likes as well. So
yeah, I don't know if that would have made his top 5 still.
I don't know. It probably should have, because it should have been everybody's number 1. But
but anyways, what did we miss that was on your top 5? Please let us know at meeplenation@gmail.com, or for sure jump onto our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air.
Until next week,
we'll see you deep in space looking for your top 5 games at the game table.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation, or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.